Alright team, today on System Fracture we are diving into something huge and honestly something most people still aren't aware is happening right now. Google has patched 2 Android 0 days that were already being exploited in the wild. And when a 0 day is actively burning before the patch drops, that means someone, somewhere, wanted into specific devices fast. This is not your typical monthly update breakdown. This one is personal. This one affects you. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how these exploits actually work, why they were weaponized, and how attackers chain them like surgical instruments. Most news outlets won't go past the headline. We will. Let's zoom out for a second. The December Android security bulletin shipped with 107 fixes. That's a huge drop. Framework, system, kernel, vendor components across the entire OS stack. But here's what matters. Only 2 vulnerabilities were already being used in real attacks. And those 2 live inside the Android framework, the beating heart that everything on your device touches. Your apps, your permissions, your system services, everything. When attackers choose to burn a framework 0 day, it's not random. That's the cyber security equivalent of spending a missile. So the real story here is not the 107 fixes. It's why were 2 of those fixes already in the hands of attackers? Who were they targeting? And what does that say about the sophistication behind the scenes? Hang on, because the breadcrumbs point towards something bigger than a simple bug fix. Let's jump into the first 0 day. CV 2025-48633, an information disclosure flaw. Now, to non-technical audiences, an info leak sounds quite boring, honestly. But here's the truth. Every elite exploit chain starts with an information leak. And here's why. Android has strong defenses, sandboxing, ASLR, memory separation. So for who doesn't know it, ASLR, address space layout randomization, randomizes memory so attackers cannot find critical structures unless they have a bug that leaks those addresses. And that's exactly what this vulnerability did. It quietly exposed memory locations or tokens or sensitive system values, the kind of breadcrumbs attackers need to make the next stage of their exploit precise and reliable. That's why info leaks are the recon phase. They don't take over your phone, they prepare the battlefield. And here's the kicker. Google confirmed this was used in limited, targeted attacks. Translated, someone used this to study a specific device or a specific person before launching the next stage. Now, here's where it gets dangerous. The second 0 day, CV 2025-48572, is actually a privilege escalation vulnerability. This is the part of the chain that takes you from I can run limited code to I control the device. The Android framework is packed with high privilege system services, things that manage permissions, data access, security boundaries. If one of them has a flaw, that's a game over. With the right trigger, attackers could escalate from sandbox level code to the system user, and from there reach deeper, accessing data from other apps, reaching into the key store, bypassing SE Linux boundaries, and, in some cases, gaining the equivalent of full system control. And remember the previous slide, that info leak. It's the perfect partner. Use the info leak to map memory, then use this privilege escalation to break out of the sandbox, and then you've got a clean, surgical, one-shot compromise. When attackers chain exploits like this, it's not amateur hour. This is targeted, this is deliberate. And this is exactly the kind of chain we see in nation-state operations and commercial spyware campaigns. All right, now let's put everything together. This is the part almost no publication actually explains. What the full exploit chain really looks like in practice. So first we got delivery. An attacker needs that initial foothold. This could be a malicious APK file, a compromised app updates pushed through a rogue store, or even a crafted piece of content delivered through a vulnerable app. Next comes code execution, but only with limited privileges, remember. Think of this as getting a tiny window into the system, but not being able to climb through yet. Now, watch the yellow block here. The info leak, that's CVE 2025-48633. This is where attackers get the map. Memory addresses, system pointers, the secrets that Android's defenses are trying to hide. With that information in hand, the attacker moves to stage 4, sandbox escape, and here's where December's bulletin gets interesting. Google also patched multiple kernel and pKVM vulnerabilities. And when you see a framework info leak and fresh kernel fixes landing the same month, that's usually not a coincidence. Finally, we hit the red zone again, where we move into privilege escalation with the CVE 2025-48572, and this is the door blast. The attacker goes from limited app space execution to system space execution, and once they elevate, they start planting persistence. Hiding services inside Werner components, using modem or IMS quirks, abusing GPU driver behavior, whatever the particular device allows. When you line it all up like this, you see the whole story. This wasn't a random exploit. This was a chain built with purpose. And chain like this almost always point to high value targets. And now let's talk about the part nobody wants to say out loud. 0 days cost money. They take time to discover. They take even more time to weaponize reliably. And once they are used, they risk exposure and permanent loss. So ask yourself, who willingly burns a fresh Android 0 day twice in the same chain? That's not cybercrime for quick cash. That's not a random botnet. When you map out where these attacks tend to show up, Europe, East Asia, North America, you start to see a different pattern. This heat map is not about volume, it's about value. High value individuals, sensitive roles, political, corporate, or diplomatic positions, and look at the motive icons below. Espionage, surveillance, financial intelligence, or financial theft. When Google says limited, targeted exploitation, that actually means someone very specific was on the receiving end, and someone very capable was on the delivery end. And this is exactly why we need to dissect these chains at a deeper level, because the why matters just as much as the how. All right, we have broken down the chain, the actors, and the motives. Now let's shift gears to what you can actually do to protect yourself and your organization. Step 1, and this is critical, make sure your device is running patch level 2025-1205, not 1201. The 12.05 patch level includes the kernel, vendor, and secondary fixes that close the escape paths attackers actually use. Step 2. Block sideloading until the fleet is patched. A surprising number of exploit chains still start with Trojanized APKs files. Step 3. If you are running a business or managing devices, enforce Play Store only installs via an MDM. This removes 95% of high-risk vectors in one move. Step 4. Verify Play Integrity API signatures for apps. This ensures the app hasn't been modified or tampered with before installation. Step 5, of course, the ongoing monitoring. Look for unusual system apps, sudden battery drain, modem or baseband logs filling up. These are subtle signs of deeper compromise. And for larger enterprises, enforce hardware-backed key attestation. This prevents fake or tampered devices from joining your environment. These are the actual real-world high-impact mitigations, not generic update your phone advice. This is how professionals stay ahead of threats. And that wraps up today's deep dive as well. We covered the patches, the 2 actively exploited 0 days, the full attack chain, and the geopolitical angle that most outlets completely skip. If you're still there, you are exactly the kind of person this series is made for. So, thank you so much for watching System Fracture. If you found value in this breakdown, please hit like, hit subscribe, and check out the rest of the episodes in the playlist. Every one of them goes deeper than the headlines. And as always, stay safe, stay aware. I'm Max, Point Break Security, and I'll see you in the next one.